Hello there and big welcome to a cEDH deck tech video for Jodah the Unifier. So you have three things on this card that makes him very interesting. First one, he's 5 color, that's great, we can include everything inside the Magic the Gathering universe. Second, legendary creatures you control get +X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control, so he's actually a form of win con, you could say, because that is gonna get huge. The third thing is that whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, exile cards on top of your library, and you'll exile a legendary non-land card with lesser mana value, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. Now, I personally would have preferred if you just wrote Cascade here, but, well, they have a principle. Regardless, that's Cascade and a card draw value engine. And without that card draw value capability, he would be absolutely trash. So I've gotten a few questions about Jodah here and the potential relationship you could have with cEDH, like having Jodah inside cEDH, or which one is better. So for those that are new to this channel, cEDH the Weatherlight Captain is my main commander, the one that I play the most and the one that I'm most experienced with, and Jodah will basically be very similar to her. But Jodah does not fit inside the cEDH deck because the simple fact is cEDH is just too fast. You're never going to tutor out that thing because cEDH needs to be a 6/6 to find that, and when she's a 6/6 you're already winning. And you don't need to cast that thing because you rather activate cEDH than cast that thing. Also, I think there are better value engines that you could cast and have inside cEDH, so I don't see a need for that. Now, which one is stronger? Easy, cEDH, because Jodah actually has a problem. You see, you could summarize the cEDH metagame in short by saying that it's stacks versus storm. Some of the strongest things you can do in competitive Commander is just to cast a bunch of spells and assemble a fast turbo wincom and win the match. And the best stacks piece, more or less, is the rule of law effect to prevent that. For example, a turn 1 Archon of Emeria is absolutely bonkers inside this format. But there is a problem. You see, Jodah can't play Archon of Emeria, or any rule of law effects for that matter. Okay, that's actually a lie. He should play and auto-include Deafening Silence actually. But the second problem is that there is no natural combo here. Now, I will agree that his Overrun capability is definitely something that can win matches, but there's a natural problem where he just becomes the arch enemy at the table. The person that is slamming in big annoying stacks pieces that is threatening to win the game and also preventing people from winning the game. And in cEDH, you don't want to become the arch enemy, you don't want the three opponents to all interact with you, you wanna preferably be left alone to do your thing. But putting hate bears into play, you don't really get left alone doing that. That takes us to the third problem. You see, this commander is very commander dependent, and once your opponents realize that the best way to prevent this from actually becoming a problem is just by killing the commander, which isn't that hard. It's a very expensive commander to tap out for, so your opponents could just use a simple skill spell and it's all back to ground zero. I actually made a video about the cEDH green game plan. Everything I said inside this video is very key for this commander as he has to play a very attrition-based game plan. I highly recommend taking a look at this video if you plan on building Jodah the Unifier. So there are two things we need to include when we are constructing this deck. First, we need to have the relevant stacks pieces against our opponent's very common strategies. Second, we need to have some attrition capabilities, card draw capabilities, so that we draw into spells that we can cascade for more value with Jodah, because being in top decking mode, just drawing one card per turn, isn't really enough all the time. Also, if our commander is being killed all the time, having secondary commanders in the deck could help out a lot. So in this game we have cards like Ad Nauseam and Peer into the Abyss that could potentially steal the game from us. Well, we have cards like Laviniasaurus Renegade and Garok Teague, proven to be really good versus those two spells. And also Thalia, great card guys, making everything expensive. On the topic of making everything expensive, we also have Grand Arbiter Augustine IV that will help you cast more spells from your hand. So I think this is an auto-include perfection for the deck, hurting your opponents in every form of way and helping you at the same time. And last, we also have Kambal. Now, in my personal opinion, I don't think he's that great, because he will make your opponents lose a tiny bit of life and then they will kill him and then he doesn't do anything anymore. But Kambal has two bigger brothers. Let me introduce you to Rurikatar and Karavik. Now these two are very expensive, but once again we are playing a green color identity and we're going for the longer games, so you're usually developing your way forward towards these two. Once you get here though, you're the arch enemy. No one is gonna let these two stick around for too long. Another very classic combo we need to deal with is the Demir, Phasas Oracle and Console. Sad truth is there's no real good legendary interaction versus this. Alright, not entirely true. We have legendary creatures like Kenrith and Selvala, Explorer Returned, that can force opponents to draw cards. But honestly, I don't really like Selvala Explorer Returned as a card inside the deck. You could include it just because people are on the Phasas, but you need to cascade into it or cast it inferior before Phasas. And the same thing with Kenrith, it's a very expensive thing. Now it is card draw on Kenrith, so he kinda fits the deck. But honestly, nah. I think the best thing to do here is just to embrace the fact that we're on 5 colors and we can play blue counter spells. Now we don't need to have many, just a few key blue spells to dictate and prevent the game from going in a devastating direction. You see, another problem we could run into, or something we are going to eventually run into, are board wipes. Like, damn! That's bad. And here, counterspells are great. Now, some of you might say, well, shouldn't we include hexproof, mass protection, mass indestructible spells, Teferi's protection maybe? No. Guys, we don't need to play those bad cards. Counterspells will solve that problem, but also solve all other kinds of crazy problems you could run into. Counterspells will solve Phasas Oracle. Play them. They're great. The ratio on which ones could be discussed though. Now my absolute personal favorite here is Dovian's Veto. Dovian's Veto is very bad when you wanna combo off and win yourself, because they just counterspell the original spell you wanna win with, again with a new counterspell. However, Dovian's Veto is absolutely amazing when you wanna prevent people from winning the game, or when you wanna prevent someone from casting a very key spell like a board wipe. Otherwise, I would like to give a shout out to the free to cast counter spells, because your game plan is to be very proactive. Cast creatures from your hand over and over and just cascade into more value and put a gridlock on your opponents. You're basically tapping out with your game plan. And that's bad, because suddenly you can't afford counterspells, except you can afford the free to cast ones. Having these inside your deck will help out a lot in preserving your very aggressive Stormy game plan while still maintaining some protection. Another very common strategy a lot of opponents are playing these days is Underworld Breach, Lion's Diamond and Brain Freeze. Card I really like here, guys, is Yasharn, that is preventing people from activating the Lion's Eye Diamond here. Laviniasaur's Renegade will also be great here, counterspelling the free to cast artifact. But the Elemental Boar is also great versus Razaketh, Necropotence and Dockside Extortionist, some quite common cEDH cards. But one thing that is very important to remember is that metagames will change and new combos could emerge, and therefore we might need new legendary hate bears to solve all of those annoying problems. This is where this deck is very fun and could be very creative in how you're going to solve those problems. But let's talk about the second thing we need to include inside this deck, and that is the card draw capability, so we can play a game without the commander, but also help the commander drawing new cards to the hand. So let me make an example. A card I don't like here is Yisan the Wandering Bard, because he doesn't put cards into your hand, he puts them directly into play, which is a little bit of an anti-synergy. Now you could include Yisan anyway, because you could look at this deck like a 5-color Yisan, and that could be strong. Inside my Sisei deck, Yisan has proven to be an extremely good card. But inside Jodah, I'm skeptic about him. Instead, I want to showcase Sig, River Cutthroat, the mere card draw commander for only 2 cMC. He is extremely good when people have mana crypts in play, as if they fail the flip, you get to draw a card at their end step. But I also think Tymna is a card we should absolutely include inside this deck. But we do have some new cool card drawing cards like Shanna, Purifying Blade, 3 cMC, Lifelink. At the beginning of our end step you may pay X if you do draw X cards, and that's great. But then we have my favorite card from the entire set. Not the best card, but definitely my favorite, Shanid. Giving all your legendary creatures menace, and that's great because this is an overrun deck. We wanna win with beatdown, and making our creatures a little bit harder to block is great for that strategy. But also there's an amazing synergy here. Whenever you play a legendary land or cast a legendary spell, you draw a card and you lose a life. Here's the thing though, when you cascade, you actually cast the thing as well. So when you cast a legendary spell from your hand, you get to draw 2 cards. And because our legendary ratio is just gonna be so high, this could definitely be a secondary 5-color Shanid commander in the 99. Now what about the Boros Venota? There's definitely some synergy here. We're gonna have a lot of legendary creatures that aren't humans that could find humans. We already looked at a bunch of humans, so I could really see where this actually goes into the deck as well. It doesn't actually synergize with the commander, and the ratio of humans might need to go up a little bit to make it consistent and good enough, but it's definitely a card you could consider for this deck. What about Captain Cece, the Celestia one? I actually think she's great and probably an auto include. With this you can tutor out the really expensive legendaries, and you can cast them and you can make explosive havocs. Yeah, I think she's amazing. She becomes that very perfect solution in finding what you actually need. Similar with this Blood Sky Sire, this demon rogue that also tutors actually. There's even a synergy here. You could go to combat, activate his Boast ability and put a cool card on top of your library, and then you cast a legendary spell from your hand with higher cMC to kind of program a little bit of what you're going to get into play with your Jodah. There's also a really cool synergy with Max the Daredevil. So whenever you cast your second spell each turn, untap target creature, then you investigate, which means you can pay 2 mana to draw a card. The cool part here is that with our commander, we are always casting a second spell. So getting a max trigger is very easy. This will both be card draw and a little bit help of ramp. On the topic of Stranger Things and Investigate, we also have Chief Jim Hopper that will investigate equal to the amount of creatures attacking, and this is a deck that is attacking, so this could be a lot of card draw. Just bear in mind that sometimes you have anti-synergy with something like Yasharn preventing you from sacrificing your clues. Another potential auto-include in my opinion is Esika, God of the Tree, that is making all of your legendary creatures, and you're gonna have a lot of them, into mana dorks with vigilance, so you can attack and cast spells. So you go to combat, you attack, you get some damage in there, and then you tap your legendary creatures to put legendary creatures into play and cascade into more legendaries. But you could also cast the God or enchantment version of her that is also a card draw engine as well. Now while we're on the topic, we could actually include the entire Nayela package or something of the Nayela package. Nayela could be a pretty good card inside this deck because just her ability and the enormous boost your commander is giving all of your creatures, the beatdown plan could be very potential here. Also, if you have Esika and Nayela in play, you can go infinite combat steps, or if you have Nayela and Darevi in play, you can also go infinite combat steps. Now it's a little bit wonky to get this, but remember you're on black, so you could have tutors inside the deck, but also all of these free cards here will be individually great inside this deck. Darevi is amazing with Jodah. First main phase, you tap out, you cast a bunch of legendary creatures, you attack, you untap not everything, but you untap a bunch, and now you can cast more things from your hand. It helps out a lot with the storm game plan, so to say, which this deck is. This is a creature storm overrun deck. And it's never wrong to have a demonic tutor inside your deck so you can find that other piece you're missing to complete your combo. That's it for me and this video. I hope you liked it and I hope it gave you some ideas on how to construct Jodah the Unifier. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time, guys.